Hello and welcome back to Tradespotting. We're going to talk about GME and AMC. Thank you very much for being so patient with me. Apes together strong. J.P. Morgan said that we ought to stay liquid longer than the markets can stay irrational. I say we need to stay irrational longer than those markets can stay liquid. We face a trifecta of regurgitation from the media, industry, and news. The lack of integrity in the message and its volume with which it's broadcast and reflected is frustrating. Ignorance is exploited, though not that of the risk management of the retail trader, but instead the darker operations of the markets. And that's done by the large liquidity providers. We are called the apes for lots of different reasons, but that which resonates most strongly with me is this idea that we are irrational. The truth is we are in control of our own psychology. We fight for our mind as we would our body. We are indeed irrational from some perspectives. In fact, we're never ever going back to reasonable land. GME today has dropped back down slightly under the $200 mark at close, 199.19 and 198.50 post-market prices. You can see he's formed this wedge on the chart on the 15-minute time frame. Itself an accumulation pattern that likely breaks to the top side with a move, say something like this. So let's say it happens in it around that previous area of supply, which is hopefully now going to be support. Let's say price action gets down to around here, 191, likely breaks up and tests 210 again. At that point, you wouldn't question the long-term trend to the top side, though you would question if we were yet to come in and put in a higher low in this region, which would be a continuation of the trend on the higher time frames here. Let's see the 4-hour with this series of higher lows, which has been the dominant aspect of this trend because we have only recently put in one higher high, higher to our previous one on the 4-hour, and that hasn't yet corrected the overall trend on this time frame, though it has started to turn up on the weekly. So as you can see at this point, what you're thinking, or at least I am, is where does the higher low come in at? Is it on a retest of this previous downward sloping supply line? As you can see, that forms the wedge. Not sure where they're buying their wedges, but that's what they call it. And then I'm thinking perhaps there'll be a slightly lower test after, break back inside this, because like I say, it's not actually a wedge. And then that might be where you come in. You also fill a gap. There's been a bad merger down there. The 1-hour chart, if we stretch it out, you can see around this level, there's a little bit of a gap. That's in around here at 172, give or take a couple of bucks either side of it. And that's the greater picture for the technical analysis on GME on the bigger time frames. As I mentioned, we have put in a higher high on the weekly time frame. And it's important to bear that in mind when you talk about the long-term trend. I'll just get this back onto the charts. Thank you so much for these donations and the people who support the channel. It's really appreciated. Higher lows and higher woes. Hedgy woes. Thanks so much. Rotten, stinking, festering corpse of an order is colon. Here you are on this weekly chart, looking at this price action and how the TA has evolved. Bearing it in mind for the future moves on GME, you can see you've been consolidating at resistance, but there's a lot more to it than that. The dominant Fibonacci sequence that you're in at the minute is measured horizontally with this retracement tool from your highs in January to the lows that we faced in and around the start of March. That dictates the top and bottom level of the retracement that we move against that downwards action in price, and then measuring things along the x-axis here, you can see that we've got the Fibonacci based time zones, which are also measured from that same area with our low, high, low coming in throughout the overall low and high of price action on GME, and that dictates where you may see moves in future. We've seen a number of them so far. Obviously the first one, then this later peak, then this low, and here we are approaching another. At that point, you can see we're also at the 618. That's the golden pocket retrace of this overall move. So you break above that, you're aiming to the 786 and the 886. You want to do it on this weekly time frame. Opening and closing higher than we are at the minute is good, but like I say, you can do that after you've confirmed the trend with a test slightly lower. So I wouldn't panic to see prices go down, as I've been talking about, they've been doing potentially for a while. And that's the short little take on GME price action. But let's go down to the 5 minute and watch what happened today and see if there was any lessons to be learned from what we might have expected and what went on. Happy to answer anybody's questions if you like. If you're enjoying it, please hit the like button. If you get any value of it, please hit the like button. So price action started today. Where were we? This is after hours, is it? Let's put it onto the regular. You see the little gap that it had at the day starting. Let's go back in time. Get more on the charts here. You can see drop below this level of support. It was interesting for a number of touches before we reached it, and then on top of it, it is in fact, if I can get price action on the chart here, it is the bottom of that golden pocket, the 618, the top being the 0.65. And so you drop below it, tested it, and previous support turned into resistance. We were expecting then price action to have come down and test one of these levels below and put in a significant test of a higher time frame. Let's see how price action evolved. As the day opened, you immediately went down, tested those lower levels, opened up that gap. It being at the top side of the wedge give you two reasons why when price action got back up here to fill the gap, it likely then did meet a period of resistance and create a new horizontal level. It's doing that for itself now. As prices fall back down, you look left and see 200, and that's a psychological level, plus you've got a number of touches on the way up. Drop back down. Below that, you can expect another retest of this area should you be outside that wedge. It's not necessarily true that you are on this smaller time frame, possibly, but I wouldn't say so yet. Little bit of a reaction taking prices back to the 200, having dropped below. The low today 196.5 and high of 207. On the 5 minute time frame, it is difficult to get a longer term picture of trend, especially when you can see the future direction of moves. But if we do go then back up to the 30 minute and talk about that there, longer, stronger trend to the downside as represented by the DI minus taking precedence here. That's also confirmed by the ADX, its slope and direction. The cross on the MACD not coming in with any sort of conviction, failing here, and the RSI showing price action dropping into the bearish control zone. That spoke for the lack of pressure on price at the minute. Can you look at WKEY, please? The NFT authentication hype led me to an interesting chart of Wolfpack Doomslayer. WKEY. Why not? It's time for me, Lisa. Thanks very much, Wolfric. I most certainly will take a look at that after the AMC check-in. So what were we talking about here? Yes, just a little bit of a picture about the indicators and what they mentioned with trend. Back up to the hourly now. You can see you've tested top of that bearish control zone. Maybe you do come in and put in another test of this area, drop into the bearish control zone on the hourly. I wouldn't put much faith in that time like that extension here. Maybe on the test of the center line when you come back here and test should it come up on this move after a test of this area of support, should your RSI then come back up and test the center line and reclaim its own moving average, that would be positive. But I would be hesitant to put orders in at that area right now. Looking at feel the center line on the 4 hours doesn't speak to the positive moves yet. 12 hours, nothing necessarily interesting there. Daily time frame, more of the same. RSI now pushing towards the center line as well. MACD shows that your momentum's dropping off a little bit as your positive trend is failing to break its own horizontals that it's created recently. You will see this picture on the Outcrop DMI, a swell of the colours of which all match neatly across the charts. Everything looks good on GME. If you like it, then you get it slightly cheaper in the next wee while. Plus, the long-term time frame suggests things are going up. So, I mean, if you can bear with your own patience, that's the perfect outlook, and it does look good so far. So that's the GME TA. Thanks very much. Please hit the like button. AMC Auto 38.29 down 4.11% on the day, and then 36.86, so a further 3.7% after market. Sorry, after hours. So this move on the daily time frame, you came back up, got a number of different Fibonacci's on the go. Let's delete some of these so it's slightly clearer. Take away these moves. If we need, we can put them back in later. Many of them are quite obvious. Oh, right, okay. So it gives us a cleaner picture. I'll keep those two Fibonacci's on because they are relevant so far. Let's make sure it's completely right before moving on. Yes. Okay, fantastic. Right, so on the daily time frame, you can see AMC also came up, tested this golden pocket, not of this greater Fibonacci of the total move that it's in, as GME has done, but on these smaller time frames, on this tiny aspect of the trend here, this tiny right-hand side of this potential bearish harmonic, you can see that you've managed to make it back up to the golden pocket, that being quite natural once you break the 236. It did it in one sustained move on this go, as it quite very commonly does. Then a retrace downwards back through this 382 and approaching the 236 again, at which point you would really like to see it start turning up again. It's also testing its own horizontal from this previous breakout before it put in this tiny mini high back higher than the 19th of October. I mean, you're on the daily time frame and there is a number of open closes here. So this is still relevant and it is a higher high and this is a new leg of price action. But this isn't a particularly positive signature. And to see it coming back and testing the horizontal, the diagonal slope in previous supply line, which you'd hope to be demand now, but does it look to be, it is intersecting with a long-term demand line on the bottom side, but you've dropped on a fake out below that once and tested your previous low at this equals C 34.29, that sort of area. That won't hold, and that'll be this previous move here, the 236 of your greater Fibonacci that price action's in, if you include all of this formation as one overall move, which is hard not to do because to be clearer on that without being negative, nothing's changed since you put in one high, a low, a lower high, a lower low, a lower high, a lower low, a lower high, a lower low, right? This is perhaps a higher high, right? Because you depends where you're taking it from, but you've got to your 618 and no further. So speaking to the overall trend and building in like a number of redundancies for working out how you trade, you can't say that this is macro change, right? Especially not when you then go on to put in a low and then an equal low, right? Which is what this generally, you know, without splitting hairs, that's what that is. And so at this point, you're thinking, is it bullish? Well, you've come up and you've put in a higher high than back here, but it's not higher than here. In fact, it's kind of confluent with this series of lower highs on that larger time frame you're talking about. So it really does need to turn a corner and make some sort of different moves, which you're not really seeing the same picture on GME. That's just the simple truth of the matter. Looking at it and going from one to the two, what you expect me to say, right? It's the truth. Weekly time frame, hit the auto button. Still see how positive this really is, you know, and not just because it's obvious to people who have an idea for what the charts are saying, but also like it's just done it there, you know, and now it's doing a very similar thing here. And of course the psychology within it is a little bit different. At this point you were a very higher low, right? That was significantly higher, 50%. Whereas on these particular moves, that percentage change is slightly different, though that's natural on a logarithmic chart. Just stick it on linear, and you can see these are wilder swings in terms of dollars, but in terms of percentages, like this was a much greater area of interest. They're back on the logarithmic, right? And as you can see here, right, like this is the context of how you should measure your moves in percent, because look at this percentage moves, right? They dwarf the ones up here. But when you're on a linear chart and you've not got that particular understanding, you're just looking at this thinking, hey, that's not all that significant. And here's all this crazy, amazing price action. But no, it's not the way it is, right? Which you'll know if you've lived it, right? This is a chart that's lived. So you've broke through a number of areas of support, and come in here, you've managed to just sustain price action up at levels of resistance. It's very good to the long-term trend. In terms of how you might go from here, you would likely expect it to put in some test of its previous highs. Test this idea of this suggestion that there is an upward trend since this higher low here, this A to C, which on a weekly time frame, having turned around here and put in what could be said to be a local low because it went beyond a 236 Fibonacci, this one here that we talked about earlier, and now we're coming back to test. You can then define that as a local low and say that these are higher relative than this is higher relative to this previous one, and therefore maybe it is now starting to put in an uptrend, and you would look to test higher than this area at $55, right? Which is again breaking through the previous golden pocket, defeating the 786 and the 886 of the Fibonacci, which I previously referenced when I mentioned the spot 236. And if you don't understand what any of the things I've been saying mean, I'm super sorry. I've been trying to explain this stuff for ages, right? But there's loads of videos, and don't delete them. It's YouTube that does that. You can go back and watch it. All these lessons are there for everybody. Speaking of which, potential harmonic there. You need to break this previous high, get up, touch the D point on it. Maybe it's a slightly higher extension of a bigger Fibonacci. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's a horizontal and you don't break your previous high. Maybe you do and you come back, test it and go on. At that point, though, there are a lot of questions being asked, because trading is about managing risk. Managing and therefore trading, buying and selling risk. If you want to understand these things and be competent and fantastic and able to bash out good trades, check out Rocky Outcrop on YouTube, whose indicators you'll see down here. This DMI, Rocky Outcrop's DMI on the weekly time frame, speaks to the fact that you've got a positive trend in force on AMC and that everything's looking up, right? It is very positive, and it's hard to say from any perspective that that's not a good trade, which is why there are many institutions also in it, right? And, you know, if it's going to change people's lives and they're going to change the world, then it's very difficult to criticize. And so here comes the positive moves. If this does manage to perform well on this test, which it looks like it's doing, I can see 3 lower troughs here, but we've not broken the center line of the RSI on that weekly time frame, and the momentum that's is in the chart to the downside isn't taking price beyond any significant horizontal. It's not even coming near testing any of them. So that's what I mean by consolidating at resistance and that being positive. That's the weekly time frame. Quick check at indicators as we go back down. Here's these lower lows but troughs, whereas the price action's finishing higher. That speaks to divergence. It'll likely lead to these tests of the top levels for resistance, and that's at $73. You know, it's going to happen probably. You've also got a number of touches that might put you into an upward sloping channel, which would give more credence and other traders who go that way in the move with you, and likely those sorts of ideas add to the momentum, which you can see down here then has been weakening that, which comes to the downside. You've had a positive cross. It's on the 2-day time frame. Let's turn on the moving averages for the first time today. You're above the 200. This is a buy signal on the 2-day time frame, as when you've got this little 34 area, and I told everybody to buy there. Anyway, that's that. So there's your daily time frame. These picture of these higher highs and higher lows. It's degree of flux, really consolidation. It's doing that at support. If it can manage to then go up again, you would term that as accumulation. With the weakening momentum to the downside, that would support that thesis. And also you've got a very strong signature here on the Rocky Outcrop's DMI with an increase on the DI positive, now being followed through by a positive turn on the ADX, but you have actually got a bit of a test likely coming there. Is this speaking to, now that we're coming down the time frames, another test of these areas and a touch on this 200 period moving average on the daily time frame? And here again you have a distinction between GME and AMC. You'll have seen me likely talk about the daily test of trend, right? A trend check on the daily time frame is often represented by a touch of the 200 period moving average, and on the daily time frame on GME you've had that right here, definite touch of it, and you've broken through a significant level of supply above on significant time frames. Neither of those two things have currently happened on AMC, so maybe it's at a low and a good place to buy. Well, I'd suggest that 200 period moving average is likely a better one. And as you can see at the minute, it's in at around $30. It's actually even under it. Would that be hard to take? Maybe for some people, but you see GME, it's just under $200, which is, you know, personally, I think a big deal because I loved that moment when I went over it on the channel, but also it's water off my back. I couldn't give two fucks, and I'm looking forward to getting extra bargains on this thing because I can speaking to the trend on the long-term time frames. Everything's looking dandy. They tried to take absolutely everything off you before you were even in the fight, but they didn't know where you'd been. And that was on massive retraces from hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars to a tenth of that. And what did we do? Bought more of it. That's another distinction. So those are things that are worth bearing in mind for anyone who doesn't yet hold any GME. Those are the people I'd be speaking to. Excellent, excellent, excellent. So I think we covered both of those stocks in particularly good style. WKEY. Why not? WISeKey International Holdings. WISeKey. Yo, Wiki, how's it going? Oh, look, there's a little. Is this a bargain? I don't know. Is the glass half full or what? Let's check it out. Right, here's your weekly time frame. It's been around since late noughties, right? It's the early noughties. Sorry, what are they called? What was that big one in between? 2010 to 2020. Those forgotten years. Right, so it's been around for not very long yet. It's got it's got a 50 period simple moving average on the weekly time frame. So it's just been going in a straight line without breaking any extremes from its initial opening price to the low it then put in. We can define that as having been a low because it's come back beyond the 236. That's how you use these. It went straight to the 618. That's another tip straight from the Tradespotting school. Class of 2021. Doomslayers. So you're there, 236. Bounced again. Went through its previous highs, I suppose, on a wick. Did it? Aye. By cents. Near enough's close enough in that sense. Very positive. Came back again. Another massive retrace, this time down to 382, and since then you've yet to reclaim the 50%, so you can't say you're even in the top side of this thing's historical price action. A lot of people that had a drink of this are still under the weather. Obviously now that it's a low end of that range, that percentile, the lower 50, it's now at the lower end of that. But that doesn't speak to the long-term trend yet, because as we spoke about, you define those perhaps with higher lows, higher highs. Do they come in here? Not at this point. You have to have broken that one. You did get then that's a higher low though, and then you finally got a higher high, followed by not a very promising trend at this stage. Weekly time frame, take it down to 3 days. You can see this dropping off on the RSI, coming back to the bearish control zone. I have a degree of divergence in terms of momentum at this leg of the trend, though that doesn't speak to a change in the trend yet. Maybe you've got a better picture or hint at that, a more clearer hint at that idea with the possibility with the positive turn on your DI positive and the ADX there. But still, that RSI is very weary. Down to the 2 day time frame, 50 period simple moving average below the 200, which itself is just shown up. More of that picture on the RSI, a possible touch of bullish divergence on it and the MACD now, and a change in trend here on the daily time frame. That's very positive now. 2 days to see that as well. Here you've got a test of this horizontal low. That's a buy. You've got a positive signal here on Outcrop DMI. You've got a positive cross coming up if it's not happened yet on the MACD. This is lagging here on RSI now, letting you down because things are about to turn around. Down to the 4 hour time frame, yeah, you got something, but also it's still not clear. That's annoying because it's actually being you have actually been given such an early signal here on Rocky Outcrop's one, right? This is a bit annoying now. Like, and so you get the positive test. At this point, you're getting the confirmation on the RSI. In that sense, it's really helpful because it's coming in as confluent factor, and then you've got a positive divergence there on the MACD, as we were talking about. It does speak to a possible trend change. You capture that 50, the 50 goes through the 200, you could be looking at a good move. Let's do that retracement and see what that speaks to in terms of moves. If this is a low and you're taking it from that high, you'll be able to define it as such when prices are back above 7.73. There are areas to put in potential stop losses, so could perhaps enter that there. Have your stop just below. Well, I mean, there's this ultimate low, but I don't think you're really looking at that when you go back. Don't even think you necessarily need to go back to here, but it's not all that long ago in time, on the 29th of October last year. In terms of horizontals, it'll be interesting to people at that point. Beyond there, I'd not want to be in trade, so I'd have that actually for my stop loss if I wanted to enter here, and then your targets just to make it to the 236. And you've got nearly all the signals. I'll go down to the lower time frames and check them out in a second, but that's already a 3.72, and that's even just trend check, which you'd be getting really in at the very early side of that here. You might want to wait for confirmation on different indicators and different moves, but that's the sort of thing you'd be looking to trade. Maybe it wouldn't be the whole move, but it would be that sort of test of a trend. Coming up and touching the 200 would be a take profit area. You'd bear that in mind. If such, maybe you'd have a slightly tighter stop. It's a potential trade. It could go on further. If you did follow it with a stop, take those moving averages as part of your indication for where to put them. If you don't know how to do that, you could just slap on the Donchian channels and move it up to the bottom side one every time it goes through a significant candle close, and especially a horizontal as defined by that indicator. You'll see it moving up to the top side, and then you can move to the bottom. If you do that and measure it with a stop loss following it behind, or something of that nature, right? Williams fractal, something else, whatever way you like to do it, right? You could just follow this up for a test of the golden pocket, and at that point might be a slightly longer term hold, but it's not much of an opportunity cost if it's persistent to the top side as a test of the 236 and you've got a golden cross on your moving averages. That comes in again at some sort of retest of this area and price action evolves to the top side. Might well be that that's what happens, something of that nature up to your 236. Who knows how it gets there at this point, right? The line's just a general guide for things. And then sure, some price action up here, and then some price action testing this area again. At that point, maybe you do look to take that trade again, having taken profit, or some other way of managing it. It's up to you, but that overall move, if it does persist, is a very good one. 15-to-1 trade, potentially, if you get the right entry and you manage it properly. Down to the 1 hour time frame, it's not great, right? You know, you're banking on a turnaround here, but that's seeing some aspect of that on the positive divergence here on the RSI. You have got a positive cross on the MACD, though you're below the 200 period moving average on this time frame. So you haven't quite got the signal for its all reliability yet, and that's worth bearing in mind. You've also not got confirmation from your Rocky Outcrop DMI, which you would really like to have because it's so very good at giving it. And then on the 30-minute time frame, you've got a flash there. Has that been filled? Perhaps yes, perhaps not real. Got to turn it up for the negative trend at that point. It took you below the 200, having broken it, one test of it, and coming back. Well, people got the jitters. They didn't get the bullish divergence yet. You've had that now with recovery from the bearish control zone. 30-minute with a cross on the MACD, failing at the bottom of the 200. That's what that move takes you, and then traders exit that at, and that's a good enough percentage move from 560 up to $6. You know, easy enough trade there, especially with a 2% stop loss. Right? It's dead obvious, right? What was that? 4-to-1 or something? You would have got on that. And all you needed to do was take the 200 period moving average as your top side target and use the signal from the MACD, which I've told to people about loads of times, right? How to do this. And this is strategies and how to build it into actual good TA and make it useful and make things work for you, like the world, for example. So you're looking for that to happen with this thing and it to reclaim above its own 236 and go on. This is a good chart. With lots of different flashes at lots of different areas. It seems to perform well. over the long term it might recover and do something to those higher time frames. Down to the 15 minutes and see. I mean, there's lots of different gaps. It's not all that liquid. It does shoot around percentage-wise. Various different places to look at and charge up on. Should you lose energy of the trade, taking profits later? I don't know how you want to take that analogy. Anyway, yeah, thanks very much for the suggestion. That's a good one. Cheers, Wolfric. Inverted head and shoulders. Bearish there, so obviously a retest. Not completely got the signal yet, so we'll see. But could be. Bargain. Could be. Also, hard to argue against WISeKey. WISeKey International Holdings AG. A technology service, huh? Information technology services. Oh, it's WISeKey. So WISeKey, it's not actually WISeKey at all. It's WISeKey. I kept saying WISeKey thinking it was some sort of American vehicle for that sort of, but now look at the actual name of it, I can see that it's, well, I don't know then. I don't actually know the news in that industry at this particular moment in time. There are people in the audience who would have a general idea though. It's been traded in with a hard range. It is new technology. Joe, thanks so much, Joe. I'll read that message in a second. So yeah, it's still trading within a hard range and it's at a low. I mean, that's the main thing. Looking at the chart is quite positive. Potentially it is accumulation. You know, daily time frame, bullish divergence, potential move anyway. Easy places to take profit. But everybody, each to their own, right? It's not financial advice. I say it all the time, but that's that. So unfortunately, though, it's not WISeKey, and it's got nothing to do with WISeKey, which is like actually a huge disadvantage. And well, I'll tell you what, you can't ever hope to conquer your own emotions. You will experience some affections from them, no matter how hard you try to ignore them. Perhaps more damagingly so if you do. In every possible sense of that expression, and certainly so in trading. So, hey, yo, you're not WISeKey. That real pisses me off about you, though. It is like, you know, WISeKey International Holding. What is it? Information Technology Services. Digital security technology. Obviously, it's cybersecurity. Managed public keys. All right, cool. See where you're going, Rest. Right, and then Internet of Things sound. Yeah, well, I mean, obviously that's important. You don't need to be Chris Sweeney to know that. Right, so yeah, 236 onwards and upwards, possibly. Depends, right? Who works for them? You know, just trading between a hard range. Just the top side of it, cool. Looking for crazy moves? Don't know. Depends, right? So much of this is about the talent or the proprietary algorithms or what, you know, reputation and so on. So it's a good question, right? Just because it's tech and growth and whatnot, does that mean this is the tech, this is the company? You could look at this comparatively to other things in industry, and then perhaps build in a different type of strategy, something perhaps trade in other instruments, or you could use it as part of a hedge, maybe, I don't know, isolate risk in a different company that looks like it's interesting with regards to cybersecurity, something else that may be topping out, who knows? And this is perhaps a different entry, a different type of play. It looks like it could perhaps turn into a good swing trade if it does manage to hold these 200 period moving average on daily time frame. You know, it's only been around for a while, and most of its life has been above it, and significantly so sometimes. So here you are at support. That is the answer, regardless if it's WISeKey or not, unfortunately. So never mind, it's not WISeKey, says. Yeah. Fuck it. Who cares about internet security and whatnot? What? Was pure robbery. Tradespotting. Cybersecurity is the best money maker now. if you're good at it too. I got a little back to whoa, 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 whoa. Wolfison. Wolfie. Wolfie. Thank you both for all you do. Please split this GME share with Rocky. I'll let you guys fight over who gets the top half or the bottom half. Thanks. I will. Thanks so much, Wolfie. Where are you, Rocky? See that? Is he there? He isn't he? Let's all buy it. Oh, never mind. It's not whiskey. I see the second part of and the first part. And it all comes together now. The three acts. That being my realization, the third one. Thanks so much, Wolfie. That's appreciated. 199.19. And yeah, you're very welcome. Joe. Bloody hell. Joe 1337. Thanks, buddy. If there's time, could you take a peek at MVST? Of course I can. My pal Brew put together a good TA on it, and both of us would love to see how your TA compares. So if he's on point, well, that's very nice. Well, challenge, huh? Your friend Brew, any friend of yours is a friend of mine. I think your friend Brew is really much a friend of mine. Joe is better than Justin O. J.O. is bigger than Justin O. If you say so, Joe. Thanks for that, Joe. That's appreciated, Joe. And Joe is bigger than Justin O. That's for sure exactly what that message meant there. And great, so I've covered those. That's great. Yeah, no misunderstanding or mistakes. I'm back into Don charts there. Move things, chat, over here so I can still see you while I look at this thing. Where are my LRC boys? We'll look at LRC on the way, shall we? I love being down on paper. Makes me feel alive. Paul! It's not even real, eh? It's not real unless it's realized. Down on paper. There's some jokes in there somewhere on the way up. Thanks very much, Paul. It's appreciated. How are you doing? I'm yet to get that haircut, obviously. I can't lie about that, obviously. My life is here on the internet every day. But it's coming. No problem. Especially if Shibu goes up a chunk and I can go back to that hairdresser without him crying and stuff. Tastes like Scotch, but Irish whiskey is, excuse me, mistake made there. No bias with that opinion. Perhaps I didn't read it. Couldn't see it there. It was blocked out. Could only have been that Scottish whiskey was the best. Everyone knows that. It's so good, right? That it's like it's a diplomatic weapon. The Scottish people have weaponized diplomacy via whiskey. LRC went up to 3.85. It did. There it is, right in front of us, up at the 2.414. Nearly. 3.8476. Where is it here? It's written next to me. And you probably said it, whatever it was. Anyway, yeah, it's very strong moves. Continuation there. This is on the daily time frame. Let's drop down to something more tradable on this. A couple of oscillations. That worked out very positively, the break from this accumulation here. Very extended move afterwards. Paul, that's for the wet shave to add to the haircut. Fun Japani. You lovely chap. That's very, very generous. Yay, like the 199. Never felt so special. Made it. Wow, 199 likes. Thanks so much, everyone. That's really appreciated. That's great to hear. Thanks. That's great to know you're helping people or that. And that's what I take the likes at. So thanks so much. And dislikes, to take them as a bit of a laugh. Like, what? It's free content. What? No one forced you. What? You know what they're all about, eh? It's all Zod and all of his multiple personalities. So here we've got this extension, really good move, parabolic. Those are in danger of severe retracements, and if you put it on a longer time frame like we just came from, that retracement could be quite awful. Could be, doesn't mean it has to be. And depending on how you look at this asset, if it's something to trade rather than hodl, then maybe that would be what you're looking for. With regards to that trend, it's just a natural move upwards on a quite obvious linear progression. I mean, we could measure that with trend line with the details. Where is that info line? Here we are. Drop it on, fill it up there. Boom, bam, 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 bam. Right, it's only a 30%, 29% incline, right? That's totally fine, right? Is it 25%? Talk about GAN theory and whatnot. That's totally legit, man. That's all fine. People get excited and crazy and go mad about things because of the percentage moves and like the time span it's done it in. That is very good. I'm not denying it. I mean, I'm in fact profiting from it. It's been fantastic. But the point being, it's not all that crazy either. So anyone tells you like, this is insane, it's like, well, it's just quick. That's all. It's just quick. It's not insane. And so, yeah, what have these moves been? Well, we've just measured that whole thing. So let's do it with the Fibonacci anyway and drop it on that low. Put it onto this high and you can see there's your 236. At the minute it comes in at 2.1449 or thereabouts. It was quite roughly drawn on, and there are other things in the charts that may be distracting me. I cannot say they aren't, but I can see your 236 is in that region. It's also, we've got this horizontal serrated line in there around that 2 level. Touched it once, broke up again, touch it again, likely does prove to be support at that point, depending on how high the move goes. Does it end up being a lower high? If that was true, like the 1618 extension of this previous Fibonacci might be where it is, 2625, that sort of area. Easy, very, very tradable if it's down there, but it's not down there. I mean, it's at 3.05. It's only just come back a tiny little notch to its own horizontal here on this 4-hour time frame. So let's go down 1 hour. Boom, 50 period moving average, previous resistance, tested it once as support, likely it bounces from here. If I was going to do it from here, should it do it, it'd be a 200 period test. That's only come once after an extended period of accumulation. This is just a tiny little blip. 1 hour time frame, who knows, right? By the end of today, it could be back up again testing its highs, right? Like, that's not all that crazy, you know what I mean? It's a 25% incline. It's not like to 29 at the minute, whatever, right? Easy come down to 25 and keep going. That's not that mad. It's just quick. So, you know, but you see, right, your emotions will affect you, right? And they'll affect your trading. Mike Hunt, fractal theory enjoyers. Fractal theory enjoyers absolutely love all sorts of other crazy stuff, particular Elliott wave stuff. They loves that too. Now, I'm not out to criticize anyone who does like these things, right? They've all got a use case. It's just not my use or case, or, you know, keep me out of the conversation, essentially. Right, so up here you got this, change the subject type thing. And then that, it comes in at around 2.14. Where is that on charts here? That's 4.312. Is the next move here, or is it 4.9? I mean, that's my question. There will be a high, like previous peak likely forms resistance, so I'd bear that in mind with your trades. I certainly wouldn't recommend going short on this thing, not by some distance. If it does turn around here, it only needs to get beyond zone 236, which roughly speaking is at 3.0867, right? And now that's, what is that? What, not even a percent, is it? So it could easily go there in a hop, skip and a jump, at which point you'd say this is a local low. At that point you'd say, well, that's a significant drop back down. It then recovered its own center line on the moving average on the 1 hour time frame. Perhaps your momentum has started to drop off to the bottom side to then be a positive signature here on the Rock Outcrop ROI, but DMI. But the current state of affairs is it's not. It's just crossed below it, though you have come in above the 50 period moving average, which kind of negates any negative feelings. Also at a previous level of horizontal support and a Fibonacci extension from before. So back down to 30-minute, test the bearish control zone. Negative trend, sure, and obviously it's the same here on the 15-minute, but that seems to be strengthening, though the RSI says it's climbing out of things, climbing out of the gutter, and you have got a positive slope on this. It's coming from a good area. This is maybe really good, and you've got a touch of, you know, so short-term time frames, probably you do have a bounce there from whatever to whatever. Do you get in slightly cheaper? Well, there's your 200. There's a horizontal. 2.7, 2.5. That's quite far away. 15-minute time frame. Is that right? 2.7. 2.6, call it. But it's already bounced from where it is, and it's at this 236. So open, close above that, and you're off again, right? And then you get above your 50 period. That's then test the golden pocket. You'll have that for support, and it'll likely then go on and test your previous high, and back at 3.7. And that's huge. What's that? 20% from where you are? More, maybe, whatever it is. What is it? Yeah. So in which case, right, loads of money to be made, right? You could trade this evening and probably make money. If it doesn't do what I said, like I suggested, it will be like, because it's failing at this 236 and so on, and then you'll have these areas, and if they fail, you've got easy stop losses looking left, and that, in which case, doesn't cost you much. And if you went the other side of the trade immediately, you'd likely get probably all your money back out of that. And I'm not saying that, it's not financial advice, and you definitely shouldn't trade the same way I do, and it's an inordinate return that someone like me would make. Obviously, been doing it for ages, needed it to work out in a certain way so that I could be alive and stuff. So, you know, most people won't be able to get the same results doing it exactly the same way I do, but that's why the horizontals and the areas and the targets are so the critical analysis that takes us to the thesis we present gives the understanding that you're doing this yourself, right? And you'll have your own instrument that you're trading, or your own assets, maybe not even the ones I'm looking at. You'll be thinking about, there's a flash at 2.1 on the 5 minute. You're talking about here. Come on, indicators. Come on. As if, right? Hey, I've only got, what have I got on at the minute that you're saying that? Well, I've not been using these anyway. Ciao. Yes, there certainly is that flash. And it isn't managing to break through the 236 at the minute, so maybe that trade is down here. Maybe you're entering it down here. You've got this crest here on this 5 minute time frame, which has been a negative trend since you put in this. It's like it's lower and it's anemic. This is fine, but that's, while not divergent, any part of it. Is, yeah, this tiny last peak was, and then that second test up failed at the 886. No, I hadn't put that in yet. Failed, nothing. Just dropped back down because the RSI, what was it? Whatever it was at the time, didn't make it. Stop squeaking chair. So, yeah, you dropped through this horizontal at 3.1. I can see here on the 5 minute time frame, there is no desperate horizontal here for you to get to. It's the 1618 we were talking about here. Maybe you do get that drop back down. This 236 doesn't hold, and you are looking at a different type of move overall. But then, like higher time frames, everything looks fine still. 5 minutes, you're getting these lower tests. 3.05. Maybe you had that entry. 15 minute time frame. You got your, what is that? 2.85. So it's the low of the day. Where is it? See it here somewhere. 2.66. Yeah. Well, that was earlier on, wasn't it? So do you come back and test that area again? Psh. It's just a hot skip and a jump, isn't it? So is this golden pocket. Should you get above this 236 though? And like, good place to catch everybody out is to just to get this 236, go up there now, take your profit off the table, put it back in again here. If you don't get any of those things, that's fine, because you probably get a better test on this and get out later anyway. That's the other way of doing this thing, right? You don't need to make every minute of every move of all the time. And if you are the sort of person who's hodling it and not looking to trade each move, that's fine. Maybe you're even using it and see a utility in it for your own thing, which I'd be good on you, right? In which case, you've got just happy about the continued movement to the top side. And what does it look like it's going to do? Well, on the weekly time frame, put it on auto. It's been in this continuous uptrend, you know, long before any of the GME news. Back here on the 15th of June 2020. Well, not long before, in fact. But a very similar genesis all of this stuff began. Anyway, it's been in a continual uptrend, and what did it start at there? Absolutely nothing. And what's it now? Still hardly anything, right? So, but massively more than it was. This is a really good move on that weekly time frame. This is why you would be a little bit weary of moves that come back and do feel important horizontals, because it's like, say for example, this went up and didn't break the golden pocket on those time frames we were talking about before, and then came back down. You'd be looking at a huge correction, and these things typically come back like 60 to 90% parabolic moves, assuming that is the high at the minute, and you were to take it back down 60%, what would that be? Down to 1.5 something. Well, it's not hard to work that out, is it? It's more than that, but 1.45 or so. And then say it corrects more, like down to 90%, that would be back down to 0.5. It's like, all these things are totally possible. Like, they happen all the time, nearly every single day. So, want to look for it. Likely there's loads of money to be made on oscillations all over the place, and I can't say that it looks like it's turned around here. This is a very strong move. Like on the 3-day, 2-day, like this, just get the fuck out of the way. That's what this says. Like, this is a train, and what do you do when the train's coming at you? You get the fuck out of the way, right? Or you're on it already, in which case you're like, choo-choo, right? And that's what it's doing. Maybe stations along the way. I'm not going to go with that analogy for any longer. It's just done it. It's done its job. Oh, yo, thanks, mate. 236. Not so much. Not so much. Coming here, 1618, possibly horizontals, maybe. Golden pocket back here at 1.4. If you get there, why not fill that gap in the flash? Sorry, the flash, not the gap. So that was that. And the one we was going to look at as well was MVST. MVST. Where is it? It's not on the chart already. Microvast Holdings Inc. Manufacturing producer electrical products. Advanced next generation commercial electrical vehicles. Okay, they believe that they have the superior battery technology and are working on ultra fast charging batteries, right? That have a long battery life. Okay, well, so you would think that one of those would be, one of those would be a particularly good objective. Both of them perhaps not achievable at the same time. Who am I to fucking criticize? But cool, go for it. It's obviously marketing speak. With superior margins for safety. Right, okay, how's that related? The firm also design, develop, and manufacture lithium-ion batteries and materials. Okay, it's been around since 2006. And it's in Texas. Microvast. Lithium-ion battery technology, right? You would think you'd need that sort of thing, wouldn't you? Monthly time frame, big move and retrace. Gives you something to aim for. I wouldn't put much faith in the indicators on a monthly time frame on something that's only been around for a couple of years. But weekly, you can start drawing on some horizontal levels here, especially more recently, and you get some picture of perhaps a trend that may start to form and some idea with regards to strength of the interest in this thing. And what that looks like for trend here. Okay, not much to see on the weekly, but something in terms of horizontals, but not enough that's important. 3 days, not all that different. So breakout zone here, obviously that's going to be important, right? So boom, there. This retest, so 1, 2, and it moved again. Then it was here that broke down though, not here, so only had 2, and it's not significantly. Like, this is different, right? Is it? No, it's close enough, right? 2. this retrace in a gap that was later filled 3, and then you've hit it again most recently 4. So you could have anticipated that being a touch of resistance at that same level, and then you could alt H and drop on the horizontal. Why don't I do it? So set a number of touches, probably relevant for a minute or two. Currently it'd be resistance, so that's the right color. And then above it, you've got another one here with a number of touches: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, however many, right? Loads. And then obviously there, and then you've got this one here and this peak, and then you've got the body closes or the WKEYs and whatever, right? I take it from the all-time high, and then I draw Fibonacci on it and say this is the retrace that you're looking to trade topside from here. The 236, it's not managed to break through that. That was your horizontal level. Go through there. You're making some doing some difference, right? You could define this as a local low. You could then say it was very much bullishly divergent on a 3-day time frame, on a 2-day time frame, on a daily time frame. Right, lows of divergence, 2 strong touches of it, 3 lower troughs. Touch the 236, come back. It's got a DMI flash at 8.6. It's currently trading at 9.35, 931 after hours. You've got a huge that's a huge percentage move to get back in and fill what is currently a downtrend and likely where price action goes at least. So that would be the place to look to before you even thought about going long, unless it does break the 236 and for some reason then a daily flash and Rocky Outcrop's DMI for the first time in the history of whenever I've ever looked at it hasn't been relevant. It looks very interesting there, and so why would the RSI not do that? It's tested here once, twice, and come back and put in what would be that. It's in a downtrend. It looks totally natural. It's also obviously in some sort of hedge. Bad Mama Jama super chatted $5. Bad Mama Jama, did you know that J.O. is bigger than Justin O? Your thoughts on Millie asked Rocky, but now it's your turn, lol. I think Phil 3.616 gap on go. Gotcha. Mile, how many of those have you got? Oh, well, no, don't. That was a joke I was going to make. Don't answer me that. I don't even think I meant that seriously. I never do. Don't ask me that. Don't answer that question ever to me. What was that next one? Justin Gann. There's another Justin. He'll know. Hello, bud. Hello, Justin. Will you tell me if ATER will go 11 or up soon? Thanks. ATER 11, yeah, I'll have a look. Don't know if I can be quite so specific with the answer, but I'll definitely give him my thoughts on the various time frames and see what I think. Right, so 8.6 likely does go there. It's already tested a 236 on daily time frame and failed. There's your same picture there. 4 hours, also done the same thing, series of lower highs. Drag this in now and say, is this a fallen wedge? Nope. This stage inverted head and shoulders if it goes up again. If it comes back into that area. And then that is a buy. And that would be if you were to drop on a horizontal around that level. It's also relevant, so put it on there. Likely it is, like, at least on some level, some sort of support. So change the color, look at it like that. Maybe it is the entry. I don't know how this is going to work out, right? But let's drop it on. None of this is financial advice. This is assuming you go through the 236, and when we've talked about how you can take profits and look to horizontals and Fibonacci levels, and you live your own life and whatnot, right? And then so your golden pocket there, and that's maybe what you're aiming for on this thing. That'd be 1661. If it comes down $8 and change, then maybe you're getting a really good move there. 5-1 risk reward, 100% move on cards. And if you play your cards right, maybe even more, right? If it does do better, I don't know. It doesn't necessarily look like a long-term trend change yet. It has gone on this 4-hour up, tested the bullish control zone, dropped out of it, and not like confirmed anything on the center line and whatnot. So I wouldn't catch a knife on it. I'd measure it and look at the time, wait for and wait for and and wait for and like maybe that's whoops. Come on, B. Come on, B. Where are you, B? You know, maybe that's actually like something like this. In which case you're looking at this trade again. You know, it's really like, if you get that entry, fantastic. If this is, no, I don't know how accurate that is, and I did draw it quickly and whatnot, and there's like other options as well. But GME, not based on the financials, etc., what is the best crypto that ticks all the boxes? Crypto that ticks all the boxes. Well, people like, you know, Chris, people talk about remittance as a big deal. That's the idea of transferring currency from one person to another, right, or settling bills or whatever, and so the idea of transferring money in that sense rather than physical money itself is better done through a cryptocurrency. And that idea then that XRP will solve that problem is they've presented the problem very clearly, but I think that a very good one at doing it is Harmony One, just because of the speed of their network, the low transaction costs, and then the efficiency they've managed to get in security within that paradigm. Like, it really is quite good, Harmony One, in that sense. It's so fast and then also very secure, it seems. And I like the way it works, and the way the network, anyway, I like Harmony One, and I think they've got a good idea. I also like RSR and their stable value counterpart to that, their other coin, that idea. I like their approach, and the people that are doing it seem legit, really, really good ones. I also think there's loads of good applications of various cryptocurrencies, like just simple, clear applications and that solve proper business use cases, like would quite clearly be the case with VET. You know, it itself is the main token there. Seems like it's got a quite obvious use case, so there's that sort of thing. In terms of the best cryptocurrency, the answer is Bitcoin is the best cryptocurrency. And like, sure, there's like issues with it, but there's also people who will make it better for free forever, and there will always be that around Bitcoin. It's also not trying to say that it'll always be the most dominant coin and all the rest of it, but it's by far, by a long distance, the biggest in terms of how much it's worth and to the market cap. And there's nothing to say that it's like unable to complete any of the other things that any other coins have done if it just like takes enough time. So I think Bitcoin's is the obvious and correct answer. But I don't really have any bias in terms of trading, because like when it comes to trading, I don't particularly care. And if you do bestow value upon something because of your own sentimental feelings or understanding of its potential future use case, that doesn't mean at the time you want to sell it, you're going to be able to guarantee the person buying it off you fully understands, comprehends, and agrees with you on that term of value. So really, it's what everybody else thinks it's worth is what's important. And so that's what you're trying to do when you look at charts and trading, trying to work out the psychology at play and what likely comes as what's happening at the minute, so you can have some idea of what likely is happening next, i.e. more of the same, until such times as it isn't. So trading, I don't particularly mind. Unreasonable.shop. Thanks so much, Shane DeBushes. Check it out. There's loads of things there that you do not want to be able to do. Actually, maybe you shouldn't go there. It's a bit dangerous. Is Loopring like a payment for order flow in a disguise? I don't see Loopring to be that way, payment for order flow. No, not necessarily. I think that they're launching a marketplace for NFTs in a different sense. It's just so that they can provide NFT marketplace as a service to large commercial organizations that want to get in on this idea of like digital environments and whatever expression they might take, of which I think there's a lot of different ones. And like this idea of the digitization of certain access via NFTs and whatnot is a big, obvious open door that people shoot at. And then, you know, what it's like with software as a service, services like present one RSR, you're spot on, they're damn right, aren't they? Yeah. There's some other good ones too, I imagine. I just didn't, like, I mean, you know, we talked about, you and me talked about loads of different ones. There's like, anyway, what am I talking about now? What was I just talking about? Hi H, thanks so much. Are you still out at the jazz club? So like, what? I mean, I think the LRC is fine. Did I look at MVST or whatnot? We thought this was this maybe was the buy here. You got a retest to this area. Great, it's already come up. Test 236, not made it through. What about the lower time frames here? Now we're on the hourly. This being the C, take it down. What's that? Right, it's actually 382. Yes, you're at the 382. There's that enough of a reason to bounce. So you got to the 0.5, didn't make it through. It come back again. Disembodied remains of manifest density. Did AA sell his assets in his own company so he can YOLO into POPcoin? See, he'd probably make an absolute stinking amount of money if he did do that. Eh? I mean, we'd say it in jest. Stranger things happen every day. Should I just pay monthly? What are we talking about? Definitely, yes. Yes. What are we talking about? Oh, Black Friday's coming up. There's links on Rocky's channel to things on TradingView that'll be helpful. And like, I think there's discounts and trials and whatnot. But there's Black Friday's coming up on TradingView, so check out Rocky's links and whatnot in his description for getting that, because you'll get a bargain in the next wee while. TradingView, should I just pay monthly? Well, wait till the Black Friday. It's like, what is it, the 24th of November or something? What's the date now? 10th. 2 weeks. Yeah. Just wait. Chris Sweeney, Super Chat 675. Is POPcoin inflation price tagged to the amount of popcorn made? I don't understand how that's going to work, you know, because obviously they'll be selling the thing and are they going to have like... I don't understand how they're going to make it work. I mean, there's various ways. It's just the two obvious ones strike me as being like either cannibalizing their own company or a huge distraction. I don't know, right? It's just like doesn't seem like appropriate. There's like, you know, why? What's wrong with like any of those cryptocurrencies we talked about earlier with using any of them? Of which they're doing, right? So, you know, are they trying to turn it into a pump and dump? It's just strange, particular type of suggestion to make at the moment. You know, like, I think that people say that word cryptocurrency, so maybe if I say it, right? Maybe if I say it, then like, I'll be cool. Can I be just saying it? Then I'll be cool. That's what it's like, hey? Like, oh... Right. No, this idea of agency, right? It's used against people and it's like put upon various stereotypes to mock others or to spread propaganda or to manipulate people. This idea that if you don't like... it's just... it strikes me as the sort of thing that I kind of feel sorry for the guy because he's trying to be cool, isn't he? He's trying to be cool. But what he's doing is he's saying what other people think is cool in order, and because he really like kind of knows he isn't. And that, it just makes my heart goes out to me. It does. I feel like my heart goes out to the guy. Fuck's sake, hey. And also like, probably tell a new arsehole next week at the same time, but I do feel like, you know, Tradespotting is a distraction. It's true. Tradespotting is very distracted anyway, that's for sure. He's really messing stuff up. He is. I know. And they're like, what is he doing, eh? What did it, like... Because if he's like, you know, anyway, right, what was he doing before all of this? Like, oh, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I'm doing that. What was his day-to-day before that? If now he's got time for all these, you know, like... nah. Yeah, people shouldn't really try to be cool. It's a bit weird. It's a bit weird, right? It's also like nobody like just like anyway, right? Anyway, so like whatever, right? Like not that I know. So 382 is that going to hold it? So not I don't like 382. It's there for like I use it for measuring the velocity of moves on smaller time frames. Really, I don't like the 382. I don't think it's significant or important. It may well be where price action holds things because of this horizontal here. And therefore that be the entry again, or it may come back down, test this 236 at 8 spot, something, and that's what it looks like there. Also, like you were saying, there was the was it on this thing there was the flash or something? Anyway, there's oh yeah, there was here down on 30 minutes. You can see it 8.13, just below the 236. Maybe I don't know how accurate that is. Maybe it's exactly on it, and maybe that is a harmonic with a D point and an entry up. You know, maybe somewhere the golden pocket of the overall Fibonacci up at $16, the 100% move. Did I draw it on? Yeah, so we covered it. Hey, did we cover everything? What was it? Bad Mama Jama wanted me to look at something. What was that? Oh, and I didn't look at ATER either. So there's two more. Okay, gotcha. Milli and then ATER. Have I got Milli on there? Probably not. Metro Mile. Oh, it is on there. What? Do you want to find it, Jimmy? There we go. Down 0.92%. Low of 3.18. High 3.40. Is it turning around? Is this an inverted head and shoulders? What's the higher time frame tells us? Weekly. Right. Very new. 3 day. Very new. You got a discount in the first flash. 2 days in bearish control zone for a while. Not out of it yet. Daily time frame. You have put in some sort of recovery. Bit of a gap there. Right, this is what you were asking me. Will it fill the gap? I suspect this is what was being asked, or was that on ATER was a question, wasn't it? So above us, this is an area to pay attention to. Above that, then what? Nothing here. Not that I put much faith in. So we can do this though. Take in a high, low under Fibonacci. You'll take a cross price action. There's your 236. Obviously, that's before the gaps, and it is a take profit area. It's also like, what is that? A 50% increase in price from where you are at the minute. So you'd have to be very, 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 very greedy not to take some profit. For your own benefit. Not that I'm giving financial advice, right? So, yes. 236,479. There's the 382, which I couldn't care less about really at this stage, at the near the top side of that gap, but wouldn't have been closing it. That comes in at around 670. And then why not test this previous high, the 0.5 at 793? And those are big, huge percentage moves from each other, so it's worth paying attention to them. Still, sensible areas to take profit would also include the bottom side of that gap at 572 or whatever, you know, or even below it, this previous horizontal peak here at 530. All of those are huge miles and miles and miles away from where it is at the minute. So if it does go up, right, loads of places take profit. I'm not saying it's going to. There's a hefty amount of bullish divergence there. What the hell? is going. Eh? Oh, it's struggling, but it's got. If it does go, it needs to get above its own moving average in the center line on that hourly 4-hour. What's this? What does this say? I like gaps, and they cannot lie. He does. Bing bong. Thanks, Mama Jamma. Buddy. Right, so I can hardly breathe for some reason. Right, so 3, 2, 1. There's gold. I mean, you're not talking about this going a huge move, really. Eh? Just talking about it doing movements towards various technical entities on the chart that suggest they might be interesting. If this is something like a wedge, you know, it's like you could just keep going, right? I mean, that wedge, like, right, could do that and say that was fake out to the top side, but let's just not, right? Let's not do that. And obviously you've got a number of touches back here where you could extend this, but let's just also not do that. I thought a $5 March 22nd calls today at the low, $5 March 22nd, March 2022. That's a good expiry or thereabouts, March 22nd, March 2022. Today at the low. Let's have a look at some other things. It's hard to draw certain levels on this, but right. Wow, this was fucking excellent. Hey, boom! Look how good this shit is. Anyway, right. Whoops. You know, right? So the breakout of this thing, if it does come by Mama Jama, isn't even 2236. Could just get all the way up to the frickin' golden pocket again. Test these overall levels, not break your overall structure. Would be a totally cool move. I don't know if it's going to happen, right? But there's lots to speak to if it being positive move. If that was at the lows there, and you're trying to take this up, what was this on? 236 there, you're already in. Hey, do you really need this huge stop loss there, computer? Pardon me. Right, so say your stops there, please. Below the previous low, whatever. Somewhere around there. You're looking at that as 10-1 trade. If it does go all the way up, it's a huge move, right? Risk reward on it's like 40 to 1 or whatever. Take it there, probably just go your horizontal at this point. You wouldn't look for the full size of it. Maybe it's just that, but it could even be much more, right? Anyway, it's not been around for that long, so it hasn't. Metro Mile Finance, property casualty insurance. What does that mean? Property casualty. Metro Mile operates digital insurance platform. Okay, real-time personalized auto insurance policies. That's not all that innovative. Priced and billed by the mile. Okay, I see what you're doing here. You've commoditized it to that very tiny margin. The company operating through two reportable segments: insurance services and enterprise business solutions. So the insurance service segment provides insurance policies and automobile owners. Well, obviously. The enterprise business solutions segment provides access to its developing technology under software as a service, right? For other people who want to provide customized insurance solutions to companies that are involved in transportation of things, obviously. Wonder what all that works with then. So like software as a service, insurance solutions. Cool. Yeah, some of them turn out to be huge when they really do take off. It's usually, though, they tend to hit them like that type of business, Metro Miles type of business in that industry. If the company is good and going to be good, it tends to just take off and go mental, rather than go through these sort of things. Though if they do and it does then turn around, again, could go mental. But so 236, 618, you don't want to be trading for those things. You want to be taking profit as much as possible and following with stop losses. And thinking that that's all going to happen in one move, again, is very, very real ambitious. 1 hour time frame, you're technically still in the wedge. You haven't necessarily put in a low. You have put in loads of bullish divergence as you've come down, but you've put in loads and loads more touches of it as you've continued to go lower and not broken the trend yet. You've not broken any horizontals, and you've not necessarily broken outside of any formation. 30 minutes below the center line does speak to perhaps trying again within the bottom side of this wedge, but then meeting horizontals that have been firm, it's difficult to speak to here, because that being at $3 and the thing currently being 321. Is this the turnaround? It's got a lot of divergence. It's made it out of the bearish control zone. Just trying to get above the center line there on the 4 hour. And it has recovered from the bearish control zone in 15 minutes. So get your own moving average here, get your center line. That'll turn into a cross on the 4 hour. If that happens at this level, it'll be very, very positive for it. Take that out of the picture. Make things slightly bigger. Positive, but not yet positive on your Outcrop's DMI. So you test maybe failed, but then weakening trend strength at the time, that speaks to the fact that it was likely not going to break that previous high here. Again, the touch of divergence, come back down, maybe does touch an important moving average there, and you get in again. Who knows? Calls there though, March, so the theta on them is not too immediately concerning. And it's got obviously quite low volatility on it at the minute relative to these bigger moves. And that gap fill by the time that you're talking about next March. Interesting. I definitely want to keep an eye on it. Good shout, man. I don't know what I said. What did I say compared to Rocky? I'm not sure. And then we're going to look at ATER again. Whoops, I went the wrong way. What did you do, ATER? Did you go the right way? Where is it? Down 11.27%. My goodness. So it's filled that gap, come back up to test that area where it first put in a horizontal level, and you're at this, what was the low then? 6.10, that's the low today, 6.88, the high current ended at 6.22, down 11.27%. 15-minute time frame, the downward trend took over at this swing fail, nope, not swing fail, but downward trend took over at this stage where your horizontal broke down, that where you broke out of before at 665. That was the previous high that was relevant when you broke this area. And you'd look to that for the first test when prices came back down. Did they leave a little gap there in a 15-minute? That doesn't really matter. But we shall see. This being a retest and being a proper entry here at the D, having made the first move away from it, who knows, right, how long these things take and the violence or the swiftness of the move. This one, very, very strong. Coming in, putting that touch of Class B bullish divergence on this 15-minute time frame, maybe different on others, but that taking it so very high in terms of a percentage move isn't necessarily going to happen on every... Right, this is like within regular trading hours too, so extended. And then you can see those moves it was making beforehand, that gap that it's now filled. I don't know if that actually even changed there. Anyway, so you're back down testing this area of support. Does it drop back lower and not get the previous breakout horizontal diagonal, or does it come back down and look to this D point again, at which point you might get a bigger move? and you'd look for a terminal candle and an entry again. This one was perhaps a reaction, and this might be a reversal, and on an important and significant harmonic you might find equilibrium on the second test and things go on again. Different flashes being filled at different areas. 236 on this thing is at 761, and that's where you really want to be above. It's also the 0.5 Fibonacci on the breakdown from somewhere else. Anyway, you want to get above that same area again. Could you do it after a bounce from around here? You fill the gap that you would have liked to have done before it went too much higher, so there's nothing to argue about there. 382, don't care about that. Looking left to 382. Well, in that sense, maybe it's important. Bing bong. Chris Sweeney. Thanks very much, Chris. Love your Star Trek t-shirt. Red blue pill, would you still eat it after seeing Feckery firsthand? Yeah, for sure, man. You never go back to that. Like, it's disgusting. The idea that somebody tells you what to do is just disgusting. Never go back to that shit. Like, like, I'm not the sort of person who waits till I get to a bridge in order to burn it, Chris. I'll set it on fire long before I ever arrive at the thing. Like, no way would I ever go back. I'm not for that sort of shit. Nah. Thanks very much. Yes, Star Trek t-shirt. It's a Star Trek t-shirt. This is my Star Trek t-shirt. Thanks, Chris. Appreciated. What's happening with those sausages, Tradespotting? I wish I had some sausages. Where's the sausages? Someone got me some sausages. Sausages? What's happening? What time is it? 11. What's happened to me? Right, who's doing this to me? So is it a reaction? Is it a reversal? Obviously, it was a reaction. Let's see if it does get another test at the D point. Interesting. What was the question, though? 2. 11 or 2. What was it? 11 or 2. 11 or 2. I can't remember what the question was. Can I see it if I go over here? Thanks, Chris, for being very generous today. Thanks, Chris. Oh, it was, will it go to 11? Oh, right, okay. So, like, you got your test up at 8 here. You come back, maybe it's terminal entry. Like, you're not getting the entry signal right yet, right? This still in the bearish control zone on the lower time frames, and you've got a very strong negative trend down here. 30 minutes. Turned off the MACD, so I haven't got that news for you, but I can tell you that's extended there. That's continuation on this downtrend. A 1 hour, you've reached the bearish control zone, put in a potential flick up. There's a test here on this significant type of test too on Rocky Outcrops indicator. So likely this is an area horizontal that's interesting, a diagonal that's interesting. You're back within this golden pocket of a different Fibonacci. You're properly testing the D point over this other harmonic pattern, and likely it is like looking for people to take entry or go on. And there's like various points here where you'd be able to define whether you could enter or where you would put a stop, and how, depending on what sort of trade you're taking. But yeah, it looks like it could be interesting. The D point is interesting. Then you're looking to $11. Well, this particular thing, right? If you do go back up and test your own 236 on this, is this actually even in here? Yeah, it is. It's right at the perfect place. So this 236 here, it's at 785. It would be a lower high than your previous move. Having tested this area once, having broken through it, you could go up and put in a lower high super duper easy at 750. You want to see if it's going to get to 11. 382, don't particularly care about 50% or up to the golden pocket. That's around $12 and would be, you know, the full measured move from the breakout of this. Was that this C point? Where is this measured move coming from? Yeah. So the first touch within this wedge, something like that, right? Doesn't have to be exact. It does take you back 11 if that was the question. It takes you up 12 plus. 786 and 886 is where I'd be looking to, because of the nature of that move and the continuate downtrend beforehand, like how that was. If you do get a move and it does break this horizontal at $10, then the golden pocket's one thing, but I'd personally think like these would be where my experience would go at $16-17. That's what I'd be thinking with this. If it does break these horizontals that set for itself, which you'll get some idea of with regards to its test of its own support here, which it created for itself, as they all do And then, then you're looking at $17 or whatever, and I'd follow it with a stop loss, because if it breaks above everything and you get the full measured move off this thing, you could be looking up to something like the 1618 of this overall Fibonacci, and that's up at $50, And like when I saw this as after hours move the other day, and like how well it fit with what we were talking about, I was like emotional. And like, I know if that happens, I'll have a freaking breakdown, right? So that's that. It was 5 minutes ago. What does that mean? Have I done everything? I need to go and get those sausages. I hope I haven't missed anything. And I did a good question answer thing for people who did the other part of that sentence. I did the other bit good, I hope. What is happening with them sausages? I don't know. I need them sausages. I definitely do. Bullish on the breakdowns. You guys need to check out RNG. Is that RNG USDT or where is it? Let me know. Thanks for... I'm stuck for the ride. Yee-ho! Yay-ho! Justin Gann. Hey, Justin. Hey, big gang of Justins. Thanks so much. If your name's Justin or otherwise, thank you so much. I'm going to have a cup of tea and maybe get some of that. No, I can't sleep. I've got other things to do. I've got people's backs to jump on, actually. Gotta crack the whip. Sheiks. Right, gotta get on that. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. It's really appreciated. Please hit the like button. If you haven't yet, please hit the subscribe button. You can follow me on Twitter at _Tradespotting. Mostly I tried to provide like a 24/7 direct line to the truth via Twitter, but I will also commonly be found slaying as fannies that infect every corner of social media, and delivering proper knockdowns with credibility every single day here on the channel. So hit that like button, share this with a friend, just one friend you could take the time to share it with and say, this is good information. If you like this kind of thing, check them out. And I'd appreciate any friend of yours, a friend of mine. And my best friend's Rocky. You should definitely check out his channel, youtube.com/Rocky Outcrop. The best group of traders that I've ever heard of, and making big differences to their own lives and everybody else's. Thanks everybody for all your support and kindness. There were other things I meant to talk about, such as how to isolate risk and manage a hedged position, the way to construct various different hedges with regards to the same asset that you're trading. If you're going short on that same thing, to manage against the long, if that's a delta that you want to manage, and how you might go about that, or if alternatively you're isolating that risk by trading the other direction on a company in a similar industry, or alternatively, if perhaps you're using a different instrument, in which case you can build in the theta decay to the other side of the trade, and maybe that means that you can hedge that way against the time decay. Or perhaps you're looking at it differently and you're thinking like you could sell covered calls of various assets, in which case that's again like a way of using the premium to your advantage in those scenarios. And that might work depending on your approach to those particular assets. And various hedges can evolve into different types of trade straddles and so on. And a volatility arbitrage is rarely a bad idea. So if anyone was thinking about those sort of things, definitely try and get onto them more over the next while. Maybe focus on them specifically in particular episodes. But it's great to have such a different wide group of people who tune in. The intro to the video, as most often it is, was to remind you to, and also emphasize the fact that you should absolutely, definitely never forget to always slay the bastards, right? Never let anyone tell you that they'll do what to do or to think, just as much as you wouldn't let anyone control your body. Never let them control your mind, right? Because they'll just take advantage, and we're sick of it. You know, they try to make you compromise with the idea of you being reasonable. Like you have to be reasonable. Like their vast, insidious tentacles are in any way reasonable, right? Like you be reasonable, they'll take their arm off your neck. No. You get up and you fucking fuck them up,